You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Don't IEP Alone. I'm Lisa Lightner, and I want to thank you for downloading and tuning in today. Yes, I am publishing a new episode on Mondays, which I don't typically do, but Wednesday I will be out of town all day, and so I'm going to publish one today and one I have on deck for tomorrow, Tuesday, but they will both be timely anytime you listen to them, I believe, this week. So listen, we're sitting here 2 Mondays after the 2025 inauguration, and it has been an interesting 2 weeks, to say the least. I am constantly reminded of the 100-year-old advice, the mantra that I say all the time. It is from Dale Carnegie's book in 1937. So we were talking about, 190 or 100 years ago, when he said, people do not like to be told that they are wrong. And even when presented with an overwhelming amount of evidence or proof as to why they are wrong, they are not likely to admit that they are wrong. They will dig their heels in and double down and go even further. And I think we are certainly seeing that with a certain segment of the voting population these days. And now listen, I know I can be vague and I'd be lying if I said that speaking out doesn't concern me. I don't think that these are typical times, and it would not at all surprise me if my podcast was removed from the airwaves, if my website, if my Facebook page, all these different things that I have that are not on platforms that I own. It does not at all, would not surprise me if these things were removed. And then, and I hope I can explain this concept that I have in my head, but I've been reporting things as they've been happening, right? And these things are happening. We're seeing them with our own eyes. We're witnessing them. Furthermore, Republicans are not denying that this is happening. So I genuinely don't understand why the supporters or the people who voted for them are saying, well, that's not true. That's not true. They didn't say that. They don't mean that. That's not what they want to do. When in fact, they're saying like, yeah, this is what we want to do, right? We want to take all public education money and we want to funnel it to private interests, and we want to do this and we want to do that. But anytime I post one of these things that is genuinely happening, it only takes a few seconds for a supporter of theirs to jump on and say, stop fear-mongering. And what I don't understand is, first of all, this is happening, so I'm just reporting that it's happening. But secondly, you're admitting that this is fearful, if that makes sense. Like, okay, so you agree that if this were to be happening, that it would be a scary thing, right? Okay, then we agree that this is scary. I guess we just disagree as to whether or not it's happening, but I'm confident with what I'm seeing that it is happening, so y'all can go kick rocks. The denial and what I'm seeing as far as blaming Biden and blaming Obama and blaming disabled people and just everything we've seen over the past couple of weeks, it's just insane. But I think the end game is very evident, and that is blow the place up so that they can come in and be the savior and appear to be the good guy. And that's not to say that a lot of families weren't struggling economically or otherwise in 2023 or 2024 or whatever. But I think we're all going to really be struggling in 2025. They're going to blame Biden and then come in and do something and say, oh, look, we fixed it, right? One of the people I follow used the analogy, he sets a movie theater, he goes to the movies, sets the movie theater on fire, screams fire, and then carries you out and appears like the hero, when in fact it was him who set the movie theater on fire in the first place. And I think that's what we're going to be witnessing and experiencing over the next several months to years. So, of course, the federal spending freeze. What I don't understand is why they're letting Elon Musk do whatever the fuck he wants to do. That's insane to me, that if what I'm reading online is true, why he is just being given unfettered access to whatever he wants to do and compromising national security and all these other things, right? Because we know he wants to be a trillionaire. He wants to be the first trillionaire, and he's been very open about this. He's the richest man in the world, and he wants to be the first trillionaire. We do not live in a world with unlimited assets and unlimited resources. So if he's going to be a trillionaire, the money has to come from somewhere. And where that money is going to come from is you and me. And it's going to come from the U.S. government. And that's what he's trying to do, is get his hands on that money. He doesn't give a shit about, oh, I'm trying to save Americans money. No, he wants to put it in his pocket. And he's already done this, right? And the corporations have already done this to some extent by lobbying to give themselves, like if you buy a Tesla or a green car like that, like an electric car, hybrid, whatever you want to call it, you get these government tax breaks. Well, you still pay full price for the car. So that's just really a creative and tricky way of getting government money into his pocket. And we're going to see this over and over again with, again, cutting different government programs, not with the end goal of putting it back in our pocket. It's going to go into his pocket, right? And this is the kind of stuff that does kind of scare me to speak out about, but I don't know. I don't understand why our senators and Congress people and all that are not speaking out about this. Because they have their eyes on the big prize. If you want trillions of dollars from the government, there are only a few places to get it, right? Cutting these little programs here and there, that's not going to get you $1 trillion. But what is going to get you $1 trillion? Education. What is going to get you $1 trillion? Social Security. Of course, one of our biggest expenses is our bloated military. And that would also be a place where you could squeeze out trillions of dollars relatively easily. But I do not expect that to happen. In fact, I would expect that military spending is actually going to grow. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it was the spending freeze, and now this morning, we're finding that a lot of stuff on the OSEP, which is Office of Special Education Programs, and OSERS, Office of Special Education Rehabilitative Services, I think is what that one is. A lot of the things on those websites has been redirected, misplaced, and so on. I have a friend who works for a nonprofit who first alerted me to this because their site had outbound links to many of these different resources on the federal websites, and woke up and went to work today and all the links were dead. So I ran a broken link scan on my site and found the same thing, that anytime I had linked out to something relevant on a federal website, that link was broken. And these were things like, I had one article explaining Title I and what it is and what it does, and where I had linked out to the federal website about Title I is gone. I had linked out to ESSA, that is now gone. And what's really kind of strange is that I had an article, and if you guys know me, you know I'm a history nerd, and I love history stuff and details and facts and trivia and all that. And when I'm explaining an issue, I tend to give a little bit of history about it. And so I had given a brief history of Harry Truman and ESSA. And that link is broken, right? And it was really just a link, because I can still see like where I tried to link, if that makes sense. Like I can see the URL where I tried to link, and it just tells me that, well, that URL is going to give you a 404 error now. But all the link was it was on the White House website, and it was a history a synopsis of Harry Truman, which, you know, I haven't looked for any of the other former presidents. My guess is Ronald Reagan's still there, huh? But anyway, like, it's just like this. Any one of these incidents in isolation would not be cause for alarm, but all of them together are cause for alarm, especially since, and again, this is where his Trump supporters come for me, and they've said this is what they want to do. So they said this is what they ran their campaign on. This is what they said they would do as far as a campaign promise. They won, and now they're doing it. And now y'all are trying to say, oh, no, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. I don't understand the denial when they're admitting that this is what they want to do. So, in some state news, you want to take a look at Oklahoma if you live there. I got numerous emails, DMs, whatnot over the weekend about a proposed bill in Oklahoma that would essentially remove related services from the schools. Related services obviously are specifically mentioned in IDEA. However, and people go, oh, you know, they can't do that. It's in IDEA. Well, they also need a test case, right? If they want to smash IDEA, they need a test case. Maybe Oklahoma is that test case. I don't know. But anyway, if you're in Oklahoma, I encourage you to band together with other like-minded parents and reach out to your legislators. And one of my pieces of advice that I've held for over 15 years is to not go to the news media with your IEP concerns, IEP woes, battles, challenges, whatever you want to call it, because I have had the news media involved in several cases that I had, several clients that I had, and I did not go to the news media, but somebody did. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that it doesn't always go your way. People do not always see things the way we see them. There is a lot of society, there's a huge segment of society that sees our kids as a burden, financially and otherwise, on society. There is a lot of people who are misinformed and think that our kids' rights have come at the expense of their rights, which, again, is not true. As the saying goes, the rights are not pie. There's not a finite amount. My kid can have rights, and so can your kid. There's a large segment of society who believes that our kids are the reason that their schools don't have certain things. So whether it's a football field with lights, or field trips, or more teachers, or whatever it is, it's always, oh, those special ed kids are the reason why we don't have nice things. So typically, for those reasons, I don't recommend that you go to the news media, because it doesn't always go your way. And the comments section and whatnot, and even the tone of the article. And that's another reason, is that I had a supervisor one time who did an interview with a magazine and was really led to believe that the that the article was going to go one way. And when the article came out, it was completely bashing her. And it was like, oh, every kid thinks they're special and all this other stuff. So, but desperate times call for desperate measures. And you know what? You might want to try it. You might want to try saying, hey, here's my kid. Especially if you are a media-friendly family, you might want to put your cute little kid out there and say, hey, this is what he or she could lose if this bill goes through. And this is what we rely on schools for, and so on and so on. So I'm kind of rambling again, aren't I? And it's been 15 minutes. Let me wrap this up. Hang in there. Know that you are not alone in your concern, and know that you are not alone in your plight, that there are many millions of other similarly situated parents who have kids with IEPs, who have these very same concerns and fears that you have right now. But also, make a plan and, once a week, set aside half an hour to email your people, to call your people, to do what needs to be done, because we have to speak up. We can't just sit at home wringing our hands and hoping for things to get better. We have to do this. Okay? Listen, hang in there. Tomorrow's episode is not about politics. It's about autism. So, don't be afraid to tune in if you're like, I can't take any more of this, because I too am putting up boundaries and regulating how much of this stuff I expose myself to, because it can be overwhelming. So, okay. Listen, you guys have a great week. We can do this. We are stronger than this. I truly believe that. We're going to make it through this. Just stick together.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone. And you don't have to.